Welcome to Legacy Therapy, the podcast that will teach you, in bite-sized chunks, how to leave a stress-free legacy so loved ones can focus on people, not paperwork, when you become ill or pass away. Here is your host and financial advocate, Stacy Golden-Lisnock.
Hello, and welcome to the 13th episode of Legacy Therapy, planning techniques for a stress-free legacy. And welcome today because I am really excited to bring on our special guest, Kathi Burns. And Kathi is joining me today. She's a board-certified professional organizer. She's an author and the founder of Organized and Energized. As a serial entrepreneur, Kathi has led a life full of freedom, including living full-time on the ocean as a licensed captain. Kathi is here to give us some organizing hacks that you could use to create your organized and energized life. We're going to have a great conversation with Kathi because so much around being prepared to leave a stress-free legacy has to do with your stuff. And people have so much stuff, and people like to have their stuff and a storage locker for their stuff. So we're going to find out all kinds of great stories, and Kathy's the one that's going to tell it to us. So welcome, Kathi.
Oh, thank you, Stacy, for having me. This is going to be a really interesting conversation because I work with a lot of grandparents that don't want to leave their stuff behind. I work with a lot of grandkids that ended up getting the stuff left behind on them. You know, I called it leaving on them, on top of them. So yeah, we can talk a lot about all the different directions and what stuff does to people after they transition and even before they transition.
Yeah, I can imagine. And that whole thing with the baby boomers getting so much older, there's 10,000 baby boomers turning 65 every day. So, and they've made it so much more attractive to move into these 55 plus communities. So I imagine a lot of people are downsizing and then having to like organize, right, before they downsize, or how does that work exactly?
Oh yeah, I'm working with someone right now on that actually. She has a beautiful home full of beautiful possessions. She had signed up to be on, to move into the community, and then she held off because her husband was ill, and then he since transitioned actually Thanksgiving morning, and she just called me and said, okay, now I'm ready to move into the retirement facility. Let's go to town and let's try to downsize. So with her, it's kind of good because we have time. They coerced her, which they like to do. She had like a $15,000 bonus to move in now. So she went for it, but she doesn't have a big strict deadline. So what we're going to do for her is we're going to move all the stuff she loves and cherishes into the new place, make sure that it all fits and it's not too crowded, leave the rest of the stuff at the house for staging. And then when the house sells, it all gets to go away. So that's the easiest way to do it. But a lot of people can't do that. A lot of people do not have the latitude of saying, okay, I'll have these two places and I'll do it as I want to do it, so on and so forth. So that's an easy transition. But a lot of people, they just have to transition. They have to sell the house, whatever, and then they have to move. Or maybe they just transition on their own, into the ethers, and then all the stuff's left behind. So there's so many different variations on the theme. I love working with clients that have went through some type of a transition, either their spouse or in some cases, their child, which is pretty tragic, but I consider that my precious work. That's work that really comes from my heart to help them ease into whatever their next chapter of life is. It's so important to, I feel honored actually to help them do that. And what's cool about it for me is that every single situation is different and variable. And there's all different factors that come into play. Sometimes the kids are involved, sometimes the kids are not, so I can tell a lot of stories about all the different ways that these things happen. So it really kind of comes down to, sorry, my eye is watering, I have allergies today. It really comes down to what you feel your people would like to most hear about. and I'll tell you stories. Just go for it.
Yeah, well, I think that my biggest question, and maybe you know and don't know, what happens to the stuff when nobody is there to go through it? Like there's no family members, there's nobody really that's going to step up and go through it. Do you know what happens to the people's stuff?
That's happening right now, actually. One of my clients transitioned, and she left 3 cats, and she had nothing set up into place. She owned her home; it was a condo. So friends of furry people came in and took the fur babies away and got them placed in fosters. They're not even really adopted yet; they're just fostering, kind of in a holding zone.
Right.
And her place is still there, locked up. It's in nothing can happen with her stuff, and there's no directive. You probably know more about it legally than I do, doing what you do. I don't know what's going to happen with this stuff. No one can come in or go out or remove anything. I guess it's in, what would you call that? You know better than I do.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking. So I don't know if it's a probate procedure or what, or who steps in, if the state or the county or the city. I'm not sure, but I know it's a problem for the landlord if it's a rental, because they've got this house or not house, but the dwelling sitting. It could be a house, and they can't clean it out and they can't rent it out. So they're just sort of at a loss.
She owned it. So, but it is in probate, and I think the state's going to have to take over and figure out what's to be done. But it's been now, let's see, she transitioned in March, right at the beginning of COVID.
Oh, boy.
And at least the cats are taken care of.
Right.
But there's no money for the cats. Fortunately, friends of animals are coming in to help the foster people feed and take care of the cats,
right.
With veterinary care. But as far as her stuff in her condo, is just locked.
And no family to be found?
No family. Or actually, I guess there's a cousin, but the cousin doesn't have any involvement or care anything about it, which is surprising. But the cousin, I guess, did not really know her and is far away. So it's just sitting there locked up. So that's one scenario that you don't want to have happen, right? At least she could have set up some type of a trust to take care of her fur babies, sell the stuff and be able to provide for, her 4 cats that she left behind.
Right.
But fortunately, Friends of Animals is coming in to help on that. That's one scenario.
Yeah. Those animals are fortunate that they didn't get sent off to the pound, because that seems to be the norm, that nobody does step up, and there's not a lot of time to get people to step up. It's like right now. So, just to kind of, because you gave that scenario of somebody that absolutely has nobody that is going to help nor benefit even from what she had accumulated through her life. If she had any friends or neighbors, or sometimes you get very close to your neighbors and you want to sort of do something for their kids, or somebody, but it's really kind of a shame when it's like the government gets to step in and take care of that stuff. But for the people that are in that situation where they really don't have anybody that they can definitely say is a relative, or that they would want to give their stuff to. Of course, there's charities. Charities would love to help, but that's the whole. Really, one of the reasons why I did this course that I'm doing here, this emergency info file, is to have all of this stuff predetermined, like who is going to come get the cats, who is going to be able to come in and take care of the home, and who's going to be able to clean it out, and what are my wishes as far as burial and all that. Who knows what happened to her on that sense, right? If somebody doesn't step up, I don't know. That's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. But the whole idea behind being prepared, and if you really don't have anybody, there are these certified fiduciaries that most people don't know exist, but that's the whole reason they do exist. If you don't have anybody that you can trust, or that you want to burden because maybe they have their own lives and they live too far away, or they just can't add one more thing, then these fiduciaries work really well. Have you ever come across anything like that where you've been working with somebody that's not actually even related? but they're
Yes,
taking
yes.
care of the property?
I've had that scenario as well, and it's much easier because it's easier. There are directives. There are things that can be done with the stuff, and it can be parceled out to the right places. I as you're saying this, I just keep thinking about my mother. I lost my mother when I was 18, and she had a long illness, so she knew that she was transitioning. And the biggest blessing that she did was she went around to all of the possessions that she wanted to pass on to people, and she actually put Post-it notes on the bottom of everything on who gets what. And
Nice.
it was such great, it was just easy planning for her. She knew that my father would still be here, so it wasn't like going to be a probate thing or anything, but she really took good care on determining what's going to go to who with the simple thing of putting Post-it notes on the bottom. So I thought that was pretty precious. And that was a big blessing to us because we didn't have to wonder, who does she want to have this or who does she want to have that? And, speaking of that, I can think of another client who I was speaking at a national conference, and she came up, and my book is How to Master Your Muck. And it's like, what's your muck? And she's like, my muck is all of my grandmother's stuff. I am the only girl in the family, and it all came to me. Now, what am I going to do with a weaving loom? What am I going to do with that? But grandma had it for 40 years. My mom had it for 20 years, and now I have it. I don't want it, but now I can't get rid of it because I'm the girl and I'm the one that's supposed to keep track of all that stuff. That's my muck. And she goes, and the loom is just the beginning of it all. What about all the other stuff that she left me? I have it. My brothers, got off scot-free, which is what happens all the time, by the way. All the time, it's the girls that end up with the stuff in the garage full of the heirlooms. And what I always tell people is, don't feel like you have to keep it because grandma kept it for 30 years and your mom kept it for 20 years, because it's the thought, it's not the thing. So, I don't think that after your loved ones, make their transition, that they are going to want you to be burdened. And once, if they knew that you really didn't care about it, I don't think that they would want you to have to keep it. And just because mom kept it for 20 years does not mean that it should be important to you. There's no guilt around letting it go.
Yeah. It's almost like somebody needs to be told that, because I often think, I wish my mom was here to ask her, what should I do with this? Or what should I do with that? But it's the same thing. If nobody really sort of tells you that, you don't realize it on your own. And you could take photographs and you could memorialize the photographs, put them in a book and say, this is grandma's stuff. Yeah. And that would be a way to remember what it looked like.
Yeah. It's, that's what I do is I give people permission to let go. It's okay to let go. It's okay. I allow, you can do it. As a professional, they will seek my guidance and they will follow my guidance, which that's why it's real much of an honor for me to help people deal with that, deal with death. I just got off the phone with a lady as a virtual consultation who her muck is her son who passed 2 years ago. He was 25.
Oh, boy.
And she has all of his t-shirts and all of his trophies and all of his memorabilia. And she's trying to figure out how to really come to grips with that stuff. So we created a strategy, 2 years. What I find, people call me just about 2 years after a death. And that's when they're finally ready to try to take some type of action. Before that, it's probably a little bit early.
Yeah.
And, my goal with her is just put all your son's stuff in a big tub. Let's get the rest of your environment ready and working, because her husband built her a room actually for all of her crafty stuff. And it's a disaster because she just hasn't been able to handle anything, which is totally normal. Clutter's best friends are death, disease, divorce, dependence. So the 4 Ds. If you have more than one of those Ds, you're pretty much in trouble. If you have one, you can maybe tackle it. If you have death and divorce, or maybe you have disease and death or whatever, you need a professional to come in to help you. And don't feel like you're a loser because you can't handle it, because those are big, huge life events.
Right.
They really, really are. So, so we're putting all this just happened this morning. We're putting all of his stuff into a tub. She's going to create an environment that's a great environment for her to do her crafting and her sewing. And once she's all kind of set up, it'll be another 6 months or so. She'll be ready to jump in and we'll work on her son's possessions and what we're going to do with them. Is she going to make a quilt out of the t-shirts? Is she going to be able to let them go? Everybody's different. But for now, she doesn't need it all right there in her face when she's trying to get the rest of her life organized. It's just demoralizing and it's sad.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what we're doing with her right now as we speak.
So being like a hoarder, that's a whole nother conversation, I'm thinking here.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So you're talking about just regular people that accumulate regular stuff and they need to downsize, or somebody passes and then they just get all the stuff. What do you do?
Yeah. And I'm a board certified professional organizer. I don't work with hoarders. There is a whole nother certification for hoarders. I don't go there because hoarding is a disease.
Absolutely.
And it's something that takes a team. It takes psychologists. It takes meds. It takes sometimes city codes people. It takes an organizer. I don't do that because they don't graduate. I work with clients who actually have the capacity to move forward and make progress in their life. And that's my joy.
Yeah.
Reminds me of another client I had. She had lost her husband about 3 years before she called me. It was tragic. He used to teach cycling and sailing, and he actually lost his life on a highway on his bicycle. When she called me, she still had his bicycle in the living room.
Oh boy.
But it had been 3 years, and she was finally ready to move forward. And, the first thing is we got that bike out of the living room. That was a shrine to death, and that was just not helpful for her at all. After we went through the clearing process to try to, because obviously her house had fallen into disarray because it was her and his house, right? So, and he was an avid everything. He had hobbies all over the place. So we started slowly getting rid of the hobbies that didn't have that much of a charge for her. And when we finished the project, we were in the master closet and we were able to let go of all of his clothes minus a few key things that she wanted to hold on to. And it ended up being a joyous experience for her because then she had this giant walk-in closet that she could take over. And she still had a couple of her husband's really, really important stuff that she had hanging right there so that she could get comfort from them. But then she ended up with a whole walk-in closet. So we ended it with a hurrah, even though it was a very hard process. But, after 3 years, we were able to start eliminating all the husband stuff. And she ended up with a girl cave, in the garage was all his workshop and his bicycle building, all that. And we ended up giving her and her girlfriend who had moved in with her, which was really cool. Her cousin from Arizona moved over. So the girls so we gave her a girl cave so they could do all their arts and crafts and play their music and do their band stuff and all that. And then she also ended up with the master closet that was her own. So it was pretty cool. That was a process, right? Because that was a tragedy. I mean, death is always a tragedy, some less, some more. My father just transitioned 2 years ago. He was 96.
Oh my God, good for you.
He lived a great life. And I actually got my organizing gene from my father. He used to organize everything. He had a Dewey Decimal System for his books, for goodness sake. I mean, he was an organizing. He spent forever building systems. So what you dislike most is what you learn. So here I am as an organizer, right?
Right.
But he spent the last 10 years of his life organizing his memories, getting rid of this stuff, and categorizing it all into boxes. And how you organize your memories is a whole nother, oh my gosh, we could talk hours about that. But he had decided that he was going to do it by life event. Okay. So, he has his pre-marriage, married to my mom, all the wives after my mom transitioned, a lot. And then so on and so forth. This is his Coast Guard time. This is his minister time. This is his family time. So that's how he decided to organize. So when he was, getting up in the years, and I would fly back and forth to Florida, as he was getting older and less stable. And he kept trying to give me stuff. And I have to fly home with it because I'm in California, he was in Florida. So what he would do, he would give me stuff and I would take it, but then I would go to my sister's and I would shoot pictures of it. So it's all saved on digital. And then I wanted to let it go. And my sister's like, no, we can't let it go. So she has all the stuff. And I feel like I was the smart person because I just shot pictures. I also did a lot of audio video interviews with him. So I have his voice, I have his video, I have him now encapsulated, right, in digital, and it's saved so in the cloud, so I'll never lose him. But I didn't need all the papers and stuff, but I definitely wanted the photos. And who cares if it's a digital reproduction and it's not as good quality as original photo, because quite honestly, photos that were shot in the 30s and 40s aren't really good anyhow, so I don't really care. But now I have it all there. If my sister and my brother decide that they're going to let go of this stuff, I have it saved digitally for them. And actually I already shared that with them. So now they can let go if they can bring themselves to do it.
Yeah.
But that was a way for me to have closure.
So do you find a lot of people have like still 8mm reels and the VHS tapes and all of these things that they can't even actually use because they don't have players for them?
Yes, absolutely. And, Costco or I think Sam's or whatever is in your area, they will convert things for you. But I'll tell you what, VCRs, they don't last. I actually waited. I have my wedding. I got married in 1993, and I decided in 2003 that I was going to put it to digital to save it. I lost the whole front end. The whole front end was already gone.
Really?
It disintegrated. So they don't last.
Right.
That's why we're all digital. Film doesn't last. So if you have something that you're holding on to that you think you might get converted, do it now and see if it's even worth it. Don't sit on it very much longer because it's not going to be anything. I was really lucky to save 2/3 of my wedding, actually.
Yeah. Wow. I have lots of those things in my closet too. And some of them have been in the garage at times. So they were hot and cold. And then so I hate to even look and see what I got left.
Yeah.
But there's so many, from when the kids were little. So I used to have one of those huge cameras you have to put on your shoulder to hold. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You need to just convert them immediately or let them go.
Yeah.
You might have better closure by seeing if you can convert them and knowing that you can't, then you can let go of them.
Right.
But waiting is not going to help you at all.
Right.
I know
now, how do you tell people, how do you get people, I guess it's almost like you get yourself ready for a marathon. How do you get people psyched up? Because it's not a 1 hour or 1 day or 1 weekend thing, right? I mean, once you sort of get to it, you got to pace yourself, right? Otherwise you just get burned out and just throw the rest of it. That's been my experience. So I get motivated and then I get a good start and then something else happens and then you just sort of just put everything back. And then it sits for another 3 or 4 years. What is there some sort of psyche thing you can do?
Well, yeah. I mean, you need to set baby step goals, and it does help to work with a pro. Not that I'm really promoting, but professional organizers will make it quick and easier and way less painful, for sure. Right. Because we keep on it. So, and it's an objective observer that can go in and talk sense to you as you're getting burnt out. Also, we keep the process going. So when I work with clients one-on-one, I'm actually presenting them boxes and it's like, keep, donate, toss, keep, donate, toss, keep, donate. And I just keep presenting boxes and making decisions over and over and over. So you've got to keep the momentum going, and you need someone who's objective, who's not going to go down memory lane. I always say that kids can't organize parents, parents can't organize kids, spouses can't organize each other. It does not work because there's too much backstory and there's too much stuff that goes on that, there's all these conversations, then you get stalled out and then nothing happens. It's like when people try to organize their garage, it's a very similar thing. They'll be all motivated in the morning. They'll start sorting, they'll take everything out, and before they're done, it's dark and they throw everything back in and it's worse than it was to begin with. So it's doing it in, if you're working on your own, God help you, but go for it. But do it in baby steps and do it in sustainable ways. In other words, if you're going to tackle one part of this memory, say you're going to tackle the one thing before you quit, and make sure that it's binned and organized and labeled before you finish. Okay, so you have to say you're going to go through your VCR tapes. Maybe that's going to be your mission for the day, is to go through the VCR tapes. You're going to go through them all. If you have a VCR, look at them. If you don't, you're going to take them away and have someone look at them. So you're going to put them in your car, basically, right? And then you're going to drive away and do it. And your job's not done with VCRs until you've decided, are they getting put into digital, or are they getting, preferably put in the cloud if they're salvageable, and then tell the person that has them, do not give them back to me. I tell people this all the time. Like when I, even if I can sign clothes, I'm like, no, donate if they don't sell, right? Do not bring them back into your house.
Right.
I have a lot of people use Scan Digital, which is a really good company based here in California, and they ship off all their photos, and Scan Digital makes them digital, sends them disc, and actually puts them in the cloud as well. So one client I can think of, they had family members all around the world. All they have to do is log on, and they'll find the photos there. And I say, do not have them send you back the photos. Have them destroy the photos once they're digitized. Otherwise, you're in the same boat. You've got them all back again.
Right. I did that. I took them all out of the album. So that was a job, getting them all out of the albums. And I took pictures before I did it to see how they were in the album. And then when they got back, it's been 10 years, I don't know, 8 years, 10 years, whatever. It's been a long time. They're still in the original box that I got shipped them back. And then I still come across the pictures of the pictures every now and then. Like I couldn't probably find that unless I find it by accident, where I have those pictures of the pictures. And I have all the empty albums that I feel like I wanted to get back in there. So it's like,
get rid of them.
Yeah, it's just this thing. And it's like,
Get rid of those albums, girl. You don't need those empty albums.
Yeah. Don't you find that people will fill up all the room that they have? Like it seems like no matter how much room, it's never enough. Right. And it's like you just fill it all up. Do you see empty spaces? What is supposed to be organized look like?
Okay. Organized is having a home for everything that you own with a yard around it. Okay. So if you have a bookshelf, you don't want it to be completely slattered with books and stacked on top of each other. You want to have a free open areas for a picture frame or things like that. So you need a yard around it. The reason that you need a yard around it, and this is a pro trick, if you don't have a yard around it, your system will explode and implode upon itself as soon as you add one more thing. It won't work. So if you have a yard around whatever each particular category of things are, if you add something to it, you're okay. If you have wall-to-wall furniture, wall-to-wall books on your bookshelf, everything's jammed in there, you have no room to grow, and you will grow, and then you will explode, and then your system is kaput. So that's what you always have to do. I have a client right now. She got her kitchen organized. I'm working with her virtually. She did such a great job, but she showed me the inside of her cabinets. There's not a single room for one more coffee cup. There's not room for one more goblet. I know for a fact it's not going to be sustainable for her because she is a shopper. Right. So I'm like, girl, you're not done. Okay, you did step one. You have everything organized like with like. It's all in your cabinets. Yay. But you need to eliminate more. So her job this week is to get rid of even more so that she has a yard around each of the groupings. This is important, not just because the system will blow up on her in a week or a month when she buys something new, but she has to move things to get to other things. That's not proper organizing. You shouldn't have to move anything to grab anything else. Everything should have space around it so that you can get that coffee mug that you want, so that you can get that goblet that you want, so that you can find that platter without having to move the crock pot that's in front of it because you smushed it in there, right?
Wow.
So that's definitely something that we as professional organizers are doing all the time. You know,
Yeah.
you think you're done if you can jam it all in there. You're not. In fact, you've set yourself up for failure.
No, this is one, I want to ask you this one last question, then we're going to get to your offer. But this is what happens to me. And is this supposed to happen? When I do get organized, I feel like, okay, I've spent the day organizing my office and I've got everything. I can't find anything because I knew where it was when it was underneath that stack over there in that corner with the something else on top of it. And I knew what was underneath it. And now I put it in a folder. It's properly labeled. I put it somewhere and I'm like, I can't find it. Is that common?
Well, yeah, that's common. It takes 4 to 6 weeks to change your wily ways. It takes 4 to 6 weeks for you to remember the system that you set up. So you're going to have to, it's normal.
Okay.
So don't feel bad. You know,
Okay.
good job on getting organized and good job on getting rid of the piles. But it's going to take a month or a little bit longer for you to remember the system that you set up. Now, hopefully, you know, I use a filing system called Freedom Filer, which I think is the best system in the world. And it's alphabetical and it's color coded. So we all remember alpha and we all remember colors. That's how we remember things. Okay. So by the fact that you're putting things in, if you are putting them alphabetical, that's going to be a step in the right direction for you to retrieve things. But, you know, good job setting up the system, and it will take you 4 to 6 weeks to not keep going to the pile in the corner where the thing used to be. Right. That's normal. You know, you have to retrain our brain on where things are now. Yeah. And people, I always tell people when I put up the filing system together for them, I'm always, call me with your SOS, because there's definitely going to be one time where you're going to be like, what happened to my passport? And I'll be able to tell you right where it is, because I use the same system for everybody, which is called Freedom Filer. It's a great system. Nice. And we can put links. We can actually put links to that. If anybody out there is trying to get their papers organized, their regular papers, you know, I know you have something that's going to deal with their estate papers, but just your regular everyday papers. If you want a system for that, you know, you can go to the link. We'll pop it in down below the podcast so people can check that out. It's the best organizing system in the world for papers that I've ever found. And I have corporations on it. I have mom and pops on it. Doesn't matter. It works for everybody, because once again, it's alphabetical and it's color coded. And that's what it comes down to, is how we're going to remember where things are.
So how can people find you if they were interested to kind of follow you, or do you have a website?
Okay. Well, on my Facebook is Organized and Energized. My website is organizedandenergized.com. But basically what I wanted to do was give a gift to your audience. I have the book, How to Master Your Muck, and I'm giving it away for free right now. You just pay a little bit to get me to ship it out to you, and I'll autograph it and send you a little card, and you can grab it. It's called How to Master Your Muck, and there'll be a link. I'm sure you'll put a link below this. You can also find it on organizedandenergized.com. You can find the offer to the free book with shipping. So really everything about me is Organized and Energized. LinkedIn, Kathi Burns, KathiBurns is my LinkedIn. My YouTube channel is Organized and Energized. So just remember that you want to get organized and you want to get energized, and then you can find me.
Yeah, well, that's great. Thank you so much. There's a lot of good tips. I'm inspired to do it, and believe me, my husband wants me to do it. There's always one in the family that like wants you to do it, but they're not willing to do it. So, but then it's my stuff. I don't want somebody else to go through it. So,
well, yeah, that's tough. The whole point right there. It's like my client who, you know, her husband just built her a whole room. The one I just talked to this morning, she has a whole room just for her stuff. So he really wants her to parcel her stuff into a space and make it workable. Then he keeps bringing her cabinets too.
Oh, good. That's a good husband.
Like, very he's good. A keeper.
Yeah.
He's like, he's a keeper. I said, my guy's a keeper too. You know, we are all blessed if we have keeper husbands.
That's right. Sure. Yep. All right. Well, we will wrap it up. I want to always mention at the end of a podcast, though, about going to gotittogethernow.com and taking a look at the online course, which is the emergency info file. Again, that's what I believe everybody should have, so that if you should ever become ill, if you should pass away, if you should have an accident and be unable to care for yourself as far as getting your bills paid and taking care of business, then you want somebody that's going to step in, not to have to go crazy looking for everything and actually not even knowing what they're looking for is half the problem. So I have a wait list on there right now, and maybe by the time this airs, it will be fully open for people. But if you get on the wait list, there's always a little bit of a discount available there. So gotittogethernow.com. And that's it for this podcast. This is signing off. And my name is Stacy Golden-Lisnock, your financial advocate. Take care. Thanks, Kathy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Legacy Therapy Podcast. If we hit it out of the park today and you learned at least one new thing to take action on in your own quest to planning the best legacy possible, then be sure to tell your friends, subscribe, and rate and review wherever you get your podcast. The show notes will provide the sites and information that were discussed today. You can get more great tips, resources, and inspiration by visiting our website, legacytherapypodcast.com.